Alright, welcome back to Plastic Models by Regular Dude and part 2 of the Plastic Models for Beginners series Tamiya 1/35 scale M3A1 Scout Car. So in this video, well actually in the last video, part 1, we did, I did, steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All that went without a hitch, no problems. So now in this video, we'll start on step 6. Right, the first parts I need to do are D58 and 57, which are these kind of linkage things that hook to the axles. So D58 and D57. Now, as I said in my last video, part 1, I'm going to demonstrate, how I remove it from the sprue and the cleanup. On the first few parts, and then I'm going to start doing that off camera so as to not take up quite as much time. So I'll do that right now with these two parts. Basically just cut them from the sprue and using my cutter, cut it as close as possible to the part to make cleanup a little easier. Same here, like that, and then this one here like this, and right there like that. And then I will use my knife to further scrape and trim that off, as opposed to using a sander in this case. Okay, and then that pretty much takes care of cleaning that up. So I'm going to clean the other one up, and I'm going to go ahead and cut all these parts off here, A24, D15, 35, 62, and 53, get all those ready to go. So, okay, so all these parts are cleaned up, and I forgot D62, so I'll cut that one off real quick, which is this one. Go ahead and clean that up on camera here because it shouldn't take long. Pretty dandy. Scrape the mold seam line a little bit. All right, so we got all the parts here. So let's do D15 first. Now this part, okay, so you have to be careful about the orientation. In the instructions here, you have part D15, and there's a hole right here, and the orientation is that the hole is closer to this top edge here, which means facing this way. So the hole closer to the top edge is going to fit in here, like that. Boom. And it is angled on the inner edges there, so again, I think that's one of those things that would be hard to kind of mess up. So we'll put some of this in here like this. Okay, so we got that. So then I need to jump back to this side of the instructions. I need to do these arms right here. So this, keeping it oriented like this, there's a little rectangular peg that fits in this hole right here. And then this pin here fits in a little groove right there. So let's put it in place. Like that. Oh, perfect. So let's glue that. And that. Now, back in the old days, model companies used to be a lot more into having movable parts. For example, I recently built the, or by the time you see this, I'm in the process of posting the videos, but the old Tamiya, it's 1979 molding, of the SDKFZ 250/3 Greif, which was Rommel's vehicle in North Africa. And they had this clever linkage system set up so that you could turn the wheels. You know, you could turn them like that. And although clever and kind of cool, maybe good for diorama purposes, it didn't really need to be movable, so I ended up gluing it. Nowadays, they pretty much just mold everything solid. Okay, so we got those two things. While we're working up front, these two parts, A24, they go, you flip this thing over, and they go in those holes right there. And they're kind of, I don't know what geometric shape that is, but wider on one end, skinnier on the other. That's kind of cool. So you can't put them in backwards. So let's see how that fits. Oh my goodness, look at that. That's stellar. So we'll put that one there. And the old cement business. Thusly, and we'll put this one here, and ka-ching, like that. All right, well, it's flipped over here. The next part is to glue these other parts in place. So this one goes here like that. And this part goes on top of it. Now this is cool because it's kind of a keyhole raised portion with a keyhole hole right there. So again, you'd be hard pressed to mess it up. So let's see, let's put that like that. Hopefully I can do without getting cement all over the place. Mainly my fingers. So that ensures it's facing the right direction. That's kind of cool. Epic. Okay, and then from there, this part fits there. So let's hold that in place like this. Flip it over. Make sure it's seated in really well. And apply decent amount of cement. Like that. Okay, and then this part here, again, this fits only one way. There's pin there, and corresponding grooves, and then the tip of this rod right here fits into that part we just glued in. So let's see. Just like that. That's the way that fits. So I think what I will do, there's a bit of tension on there, so I'm going to have to hold this in place for a minute or two to make sure it seats in well. And it does kind of click in place. It was sitting proud a little bit, but then it clicked into place. Yeah, and that part's fitting right in there, so yeah, that's good. That fits together really well. So let's put a little bit of cement on that part. Okay, and that takes care of step 6. So then we flip it over to work on step 7. Next up on step 7, I need 2 A36s, 2 A9s, D63, and D36. Wow. So I'll get cracking on those. All right, here's something to note on these hubs here for the wheels. So you have to cut the sprue attachments off, and also these right here need to be removed. Now those are going to be a little bit trickier. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my knife and I'm going to cut it down flush with the rim of the hub. Carefully, without going too far. And then going to use my cutters, cut it off like that. And once I get the majority of that off, if I need to, I can use my knife to further smooth it. Although I don't really think that's going to be necessary because it's going to be behind the wheel. But just to be on the safe side, I'm going to trim it up a little bit. Alright, with all of that cleaned up, I'm going to move on here. So these glue in here. Now the nice thing is these are slotted quite nicely and fit perfectly in there. So again, it's one of those things that's going to fit in there really good without too much worry about it fitting in correctly. And I hate to say it, folks, but I think this is going to be a rather unremarkable build. because I think these newer kits are engineered in such a way that it is just a matter of putting them together. There's no big weird situations to deal with or anything like that. They just, boom, they go together. No muss, no fuss. But it is really a good kit for a beginner just because you don't have to worry about potential problems. If you can follow instructions somewhat, you're going to be good to go. And the nice thing is, sometimes even veteran model builders can still glean a little bit of information and maybe some new techniques in builds like this. Okay, so we got that. Oops, it's supposed to be turned the other way, sorry. All right, all the rest of these parts are cleaned up. So the next thing I need to glue on is this here. And again, it has, it's only going to go on one way. So just make sure that this part right here is facing toward the back. And make sure that you put it on the right direction. I almost had it backwards. There we go. Just like that. So then we'll put a little cement in there. I think I'm going to even put some on from the inside as well. There. There. Make sure it's pushed in as far as that'll go. And then this part here, fits like this. So there's a long portion and a short portion. Short portion goes on this side because this bend has to clear the differential as notated there. So that goes there and that, whoops, that goes there. So just a little bit of cement there and there. Then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to put cement on the other side as well. Like that. Okay, so then all I need to do is put these wheels into place. Now, same thing. Whoops, that's the back like that. So these parts go on the back of the vehicle. So you got to spin it around. And then there's a little kind of a key situation going on there like that. Whoops. So it's just a matter of making sure you get it going the right direction. Now there are, no there aren't. So that will fit right there like that. So I'm going to put the cement via the axle. And then do the same over here. Cement like that. Make sure it's pressed in there. And they're nice and positive connections, so all you gotta do is make sure you push it in all the way and it'll be level and perpendicular and everything. Alright, so next I need to assemble the unditching roller. So we got two A17s, two A22s. Here and here. So let's see. There's that, and that, and that. And that, and that, and that. All right. Clean these up. Okay, for this, I am going to assemble the barrel part first, and then I'll put the end caps in. Now, this only goes one way because there's 2 pins and a slot there, 2 slots and a pin there. So it's going to go one direction. So here's what I'm going to do though. I am going to put it together like this, and I'm going to slather it with cement because I want a lot to get in there. Like that. And then I'm going to make sure that it's perfectly lined up, well, as close as I can get it, because there is a little bit of wiggle room. And give it a mighty squeeze because I want some of that cement to kind of ooze out of the seam. Okay. Then I need to also make sure that these ends are as flush as possible. I may have to do a little sanding on that, but that's okay. But I want to minimize the amount of cleanup that I have to do. So that's pretty good. So I'm going to let that cure up really good before I move on that part. So while that's drying, and before I put those end pieces in, I'm going to go ahead and work on step 9, which is the wheels. So I need all these wheel parts here. Both halves of all the wheels. Okay, so you got to pay attention though. Got to make sure I'm doing this right. So we got a 20 and 21, which are the ones I just cut off. And there's 2 of those. Okay, so I want to make sure they're together. Then we got 18 and 19. Set those over here. Now, they're easy to tell apart, really, because the front wheels, the end of the axle protrudes. So you'd be hard pressed to really mess it up, but still keep them apart because I might be sad if I messed it up, and the backs may not be as the differences may not be as noticeable. So we'll get those. Like that, and then I got to make sure that I have my poly caps handy. So I'm going to get these cleaned up. All right, they're all cleaned up, so let's get the old poly caps out. And don't lose them. All right, let's start here. So this one goes in there. Now these fit a certain way. Again, there are 2 tabs, 2 slots. So just put them together and clickety click, there they go. So the way I'm going to do this, whoa, is, wow, there we go. For this, I'm using my thicker cement. And the way I like to do it, do like that. And then get it lined up as good as I can. Before they lock into place, I'm going to drop a bead on each side of this to kind of help with the seam down the tread. Okay, so while then once it dries up good, I'll just lightly sand that seam down the middle for no other reason than to diminish it a bit. Okay, so 3 more to go. Just another quick note on the wheels. You'd not be able to put the wrong halves together because those other wheels had 2 pins. This one has 1, so that makes it really nice. So minimizes the chance of, oh man, of putting the wrong parts together. Another fine bit of engineering on Tamiya's part. So what's going on here? Oh my goodness. Wow. It's giving me some problems here. What is going on? There we go. Wow. That one's a tight fit. Alright, with the tires done, now I can come back to this and make sure that this is sanded appropriately so as not to have a seam, and for that I'm going to use my larger sanding stick here and carefully sand it, hopefully without, see, you can see right here where it's dull and there's dark shiny right there. That means that's a ledge right there, so that's what we got to eliminate. And notice that I am not staying in one place. So I don't create any flat spots. Like that. So that looks pretty good for that side. All right, I put a bead of cement along that seam because I want to really make sure that it's flattened out. So I'm going to give it a little bit more sanding, but in the meantime, I'm going to cut off both A28 pieces, which are the mounts for the unditching roller. And they are somewhere. Let's see. A28. Right there. So let's make sure that's cleaned up really good. Like that. Alright, so that's all nice and smooth. So now we can put the end pieces on. They go in like that. You know, before I do that though, I need to make sure that those ends are really flush, that there's no seam visible. So carefully taking on my rigid sanding stick, there we go. That'll eliminate any possibility of a seam on the end where the two halves are joined together. Just use my knife to get off any residual plastic. Don't want to sand too much off because then the ends won't fit properly. They might sit proud of the barrel part of it here. You don't want that, because I think they're supposed to be recessed a little bit. Alright, so there's that. So now we can put the ends in place. Oh yeah. Zip. Beautiful. You want to make sure you do them the right way because they are tapered a little bit, and this big giant part fits on the inside. Just like that. Now, whenever you're using this kind of cement, if you get a big blob of it, don't try and clean it off because it'll just mar the plastic even more. By the time it dries and you get paint on there, you won't even notice it. So it doesn't hurt. Alright, so that's done. So now we got to make sure this is oriented correctly, like this. And then the instructions say do not glue the roller. Now, why you wouldn't want to glue it, I don't know, but it says not to, so I'm not gonna. I'll just stick the pins in like that. Then these little flat spots here fit right in between those two little bracket looking things there. You want a knot head. Got to put this in place first. Now fortunately that fits in there really snugly, so all I have to do is just line it up like that, stick the pin in like that, and then simply apply the cement around that. Make sure it's smashed in place good, and do the same on the other side, like thusly. And right like that. Ta-da! So let's let that dry. All right, so that ends step 9. So step 10 is actually attaching the wheels, and that I am not going to do because it will be easier to paint those separate from the rest of the kit when it comes time to do the paint. So I think that's a good point, good part to end this particular video. So, with the completion of video number 2 in the Plastic Models for Beginners series of the Tamiya 1/35 scale M3A1 Scout Car, we can look forward next time to starting on step 11, and we'll go from there and just kind of judge, you know, how many steps I want to do before I have to stop again, so the videos don't get too long. So that's that. It's the end of part 2. So as always, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. If you have any hints, tips, comments, concerns, anything like that, put them in the comments section down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.